That's one thing that I've always wanted to get going in my tribe is maybe like a language revitalization or like basket weaving revitalization. I know we hold classes sometimes, so there is some work towards it, but I would like to see a lot more people sign up and a lot more people be excited about it because, you know, this is our culture, and every time we lose an elder, a little piece of our culture dies with them. And so we don't want that to be something that's completely lost.
This is the Good Fire Podcast, stories of Indigenous fire stewardship, cultural and social empowerment, and environmental integrity. Hi everyone, thanks so much for waiting so patiently for Season 3 of Good Fire to launch our matriarch season. We are working behind the scenes very passionately on it. As usual, it's taking a lot of time. As for both Matt and I, it's this kind of side of the desk project that we work on, but we're getting there and we're almost close to release. But this is a teaser episode for the upcoming season. And so for this episode, we're featuring a youth matriarch. So Charity Battise, who's just doing fantastic work with her nation on fire and, you know, showing that interest in learning more about fire and about her nation's connection. And so I met Charity at the Indigenous Peoples Burning Network event and just thought that she would be fantastic to have on the podcast and share her experience. So yeah, this is Charity for our teaser episode of Season 3 of Good Fire. Welcome back to the Good Fire podcast. So I'm Amy and I'm here today with Charity Battise, who is a youth that is working in fire. And we had met at the Indigenous Peoples Burning Network meeting that was last year, so 2023 in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I just thought Charity would be an amazing guest to have on the podcast to chat about the work that she's doing. So yeah, Charity, thanks so much for coming on. And if you could introduce yourself, that would be fantastic.
Hi, my name is Charity Battise. I am a member of the Alabama Coshada tribe in Texas. I'm currently a GIS student at the University of Oklahoma working on my undergrad. I am also a Pathways student working for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I'm also a part of the Alabama Coshada Wildland Fire crew, and we are part of the Nature Conservancy's Indigenous Peoples Burning Network as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you get involved in fire, Charity? How did you start working in it?
Well, in 2021, I came home from my freshman year at college and had a conversation on my sister's couch about, you know, a summer job. And my brother-in-law is actually the fire specialist for the Alabama Coshada Tribe of Texas, and he started up the program in 2018. And ever since then, he's been looking to recruit people to work on his crew and work for him. And so we kind of had a conversation, very casual conversation about fire. And he said, yeah, there's a rookie training coming up here in the next couple months. If you want to join, I'll put your name down. And I was like, me? Like, I was a little like, yeah, you're crazy. I don't think I could be, you know, carrying 40 pounds on my back, walking to the woods all day and hiking and putting out fires. It just didn't seem realistic. And it was a bit intimidating, especially the pack test. 45 pounds, 3 miles, 45 minutes. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I could do that. But I ended up attending it, and, you know, it just kind of took off from there. And here I am 3 years later, still working in fire. I didn't even know what prescribed fire was at the time. And so it was a bit scary. Everything's been a bit scary because I think just because of my youth, it's a bit intimidating. Going into places where people have done fire for, 20 years and I'm 22 years old, you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I've been in fire since the 19, like I wasn't even born in the 19s.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's just been the scariest part for me is just not knowing if, I have enough knowledge. But I think that's also the good part is because I get to learn from people. And I don't think anyone ever thinks that they have all of the knowledge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what does your reservation look like? Like what is your community? Is it like a lot of grassland with some of the plantations? Is it mostly forested? Like what's it like there?
There's a lot of trees. We have a lot, mostly pine trees, long leaf, short leaf, loblolly. But everywhere you look, there's trees.
Oh.
And everything is green most of the time. When I'm here in Oklahoma, I get tired of seeing brown and dead grass. And I can't wait to go home and just drive through the trees and see how green everything is.
Yeah, it's funny. I think for most people, when we think of Texas, it's like, the kind of grass ranch lands, that type of thing. And you forget that there's other type of, ecosystems that are really important to that area.
Yeah, I'm from Southeast Texas. So
okay,
that's where we get a lot of green. And yeah, there's many, many pine trees. So everywhere you look, there's pine trees.
Cool.
I really didn't know what to expect. Going to my first fire assignment, it was in 2021. I went to White Mountain Apache, with the White Mountain Apaches I think in White River. I'm a girl and I like clothes, so I packed way too much clothes. I had no idea what to expect. I packed an outfit for it every day, but I just ended up wearing my fire clothes every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a little intimidating. There was, I did see other female wildland firefighters, so that was a little encouraging to me. I mean, there was mostly male, but I think that's the only time, other than a handful of times where I've seen other girls on fire assignments. So being my first one, it was encouraging, and they were very experienced, and they were very helpful. And they're like, "Is this your first assignment?" We can tell because your shirt is still yellow, and your pants are clean, and everything. Your boots look new, and so yeah. But it was really good. It was a learning experience. My first actual wildfire was a bit scary. I didn't know what I was doing. Learned from watching other people, and so that's what I did. And yeah.
What was the crew like that you were on? Were you on a unit crew with lots of folks, or were you on a smaller, kind of mop up type? We call them type 2 crews in Canada.
I was on an engine crew.
Oh, okay.
And we had a chase truck with us, and so I was on a crew with people from home, from my tribe, and it was also some of their first fires as well. And so we were kind of young. One of them was my cousin, you know what I mean? So it wasn't weird or scary to go with them because I knew oh, this is my family. And also, he's also new too. And so I was there's going to be lots of opportunity for us to learn. And then my brother-in-law, Jesse Bullock, he's our boss. He runs our fire program. And so he was there. He wasn't our engine boss because he ended up going to Helitac, but he put us, with people who he knew would take care of us and, show us how to do things the right way. Mm-hmm. So that happened. I went through my first fire season, and then I had went to a college my freshman year, and I decided I wasn't going to go back there. And my mom was diagnosed with cancer after my first fire season, so I thought it was just best for me to stay home, take classes online, kind of help take care of her, and to just keep working. And so that's what I did. I took 2 classes from a community college back home online, and then the position came up for the RTRL coordinator in January, I think, and I had planned to go back to school. In January, I applied to the University of Oklahoma, and I applied for the spring, but I knew it was just an awkward time to join. Spring, you maybe not going to get housing, just might be a little awkward, might be better to go in the fall. And then the opportunity came up for me to take the job, and so I did. And I started off doing a lot of work with the fuels crew. So we would just go into our stands and, with chainsaws, and we would do a lot of work around there, just cutting down invasive plants and everything that was competing with our longleaf. And so I started doing that, and, I didn't really understand at first, why do these trees need all this work? Then I started learning more about, the longleaf and what they were and what they meant to my tribe. And they're really culturally significant to us because our people used to weave baskets with them. Our people still do weave baskets with them. And I've known that from, I've seen the baskets my whole life, but I just didn't understand, this is where they come from, And I think that was it just opened a big door for me to the world of prescribed fire. And okay, I didn't know fire, and it was interesting to learn about how when the fire comes over the longleaf, the needles will kind of bunch up to protect the cone, At first, it just started off as, this is your job, this is what you do, we go outside and work. And then at some point, there was a turning point where it was you're doing this, for your people, for your culture. You're doing this to bring your cultural resource back to your tribe and to take care of, the earth that you live on. And I think that was a big eye-opener for me, and that's where I was okay, this is very important to me, and this is what I want to do for a long time,
You started then putting fire into those or I shouldn't say plantations, but into those longleaf pine forests?
Yes, yeah. So we do have plantations. I think in 2012, our tribe planted, I'm not sure how many acres, maybe 75 acres of longleaf. And since 2012, they were growing, but no one was really taking care of them as well as they should have been. And so in 2018, my brother-in-law, Jesse Bullock, he started the tribe's wildland fire program. And so he hired on, some people. He did a lot of stuff for funding and, he just wanted to take care of those trees out there too. So since then, it was maybe from 2018 to now, they were really overgrown and nobody had burned them in a while. You couldn't even walk through it. It was so just thick and overgrown with invasive plants that were competing for vegetation. Since then, we've burned them maybe twice a year. He wanted to get into a rotation where we could burn them, maybe a couple times a year, then the next year, maybe only one time, then the next year, just to get a good cycle. But yeah, so that's what, now the grass is coming back. You can start to see some of the plants and animals that thrive in this ecosystem coming back. There's a specific type of flower, and I think some birds that we're starting to see come back.
So how often do you burn? Is it a yearly thing in certain areas? Do you go, how often do longleaf pine need to be burned?
Well, we started out when they were really overgrown, so maybe every single year we would burn, 2021, 2022, and then we would try to get to a point where they were good enough to thrive on their own a little bit, and so we wouldn't have to burn in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So we were going, every single year up until we could tell they didn't need it.
So what does a crew then look like from your nation that goes out and burns? Is it the firefighting crew? How many people? Who are the type of people involved in doing these burns?
Yes, so it's our wildland fire program. We've been growing a lot, especially during the summers when people, come home from college or summer workers. But the ones who are hired on with the tribe, I want to say it's around 12 people, maybe more. Most of them are members of the Alabama Coshada tribe. And then what it looks like, we have drip torches and, comply with all the safety regulations Nomex and hard hats and fire shelters and everything. But we'll get out there with our drip torches and we'll walk through with fire. Sometimes we'll put strips, sometimes we'll put dots, just depending on the fuel load on the ground and the weather that day. But yeah, that's what we do.
How long does it take you to do the burning? Like, is it kind of a few days? Does it take a few weeks?
It usually takes about a day or two. We'll complete ignitions in a day, and then we'll return the next day, make sure everything is, not still burning, or we'll keep checking it. But usually it just depends on how big the stand is. Some of our stands are pretty big, and there's creeks and everything, and it's really thick and overgrown. But most of the time, ignition takes one day.
For your nation, do you have like a history of using cultural fire on the land, like outside of kind of the wildland firefighting and prescribed burning, historically?
Yes, our people used to use fire to, keep like the travel routes open, to keep, stuff from overgrowth. And then our people used fire as a hunting tactic sometimes as well. So we do have some history with fire other than, our long leaf.
So in terms of hunting, what would you do with that, with fire? How would you use fire to help in the hunt?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think that it would draw the game out of places, and that's how our people would hunt.
Okay, yeah, that sounds really similar to what we have up here where, yeah, you kind of go and put in that new growth and new grass and the deer and other things come, which makes things a little bit easier when you're trying to get resources. Yeah, since you started burning in the longleaf pine, have you noticed that people are able to kind of access it for their baskets and stuff? Like, is it better quality materials that they're getting from those stands?
Well, usually people didn't come directly to the tribe for the needles. They would go to, some kind of outside source to get their needles. And so really what we wanted to do was to create a place where people could come and harvest needles instead of having to go, this is our tribe's land. And so we want people to have access to it on our land other than having to go out anywhere else to harvest needles. I know some people actually would trespass. They would, pull over on the side of the road, like, oh, it looks like a longleaf stand. Like, let's just go pick these needles really quickly. And I think it's kind of funny, but sometimes people would kind of steal needles from other people's longleaf. And so we just wanted to create a safe space where people could come and, this is your land, use it. Use your cultural resources.
Did women have a specific role with fire? Like, I'm assuming in your community that many of the weavers were women and so kind of relied on the burning for the longleaf pine needles. Was there any other role that women had with fire in your community?
Not that I know of. But yes, like you said, a lot of our basket weavers are women. There are some men, but most of the time, I would say that our basket weavers are women. Yeah, but they do a process, so they'll pick the needles, then they'll do a process of drying them out. If you just leave them there to turn brown, they'll be brittle and be able to break easy. And so I think they soak them. They leave them in like dark places, just so whenever they weave, the needles will be brown, but they'll still be bendable and strong and not brittle, not easy to break.
So what was it like when you wanted to reintroduce fire to those plantations? Was like, what did the community think? Were people on board? Did nobody really care? Were people worried about the impact it might have?
I think that people encouraged it, either encouraged it or didn't really, I'm not going to say don't care, but didn't really pay much attention to it, because basket weaving is something that is not lost, but it's less common today than it was 20 years ago. And so we don't have many basket weavers left. And so I don't think it was really important to people until they saw the results of it. And, just word of mouth, you can hear like, oh, the fire crew is going to burn today. We had the Nature Conservancy come out and kind of do a video. We had our basket weavers in the video as well. And I think when people start to see like, oh, people are noticing us, the Nature Conservancy came out and did a video about, our crew, this is important. And I think it's just bringing attention is being brought to, our cultural resource, and people are like, okay, well, maybe this is important. And I think it's starting to spark in people's mind that we should pay attention to, or we should give our support to, or we should encourage our young people to go out and, start basket weaving again and start picking needles and start harvesting needles and taking care of the longleaf. I think it's just a big encouragement when you see the results of all your hard work. People start to notice.
You were saying that like there's a hope for a resurgence of kind of basket making and cultural practice in your community. What are you seeing with like your friends and like people your age? Is there an increased interest?
For my age, I would like there to be an increased interest, not only in, basket weaving, but also with language. Our young people, we don't really, our grandmas and our grandpas, and they all speak their language fluently to each other. A lot of us don't know it. A lot of us don't speak it back. A lot of us don't even understand it. And so that's one thing that I've always wanted to get going in my tribe, is maybe like a language revitalization or like basket weaving revitalization. I know we hold classes sometimes. So there is some work towards it, but I would like to see a lot more people sign up and a lot more people be excited about it, because, this is our culture, and every time we lose an elder, a little piece of our culture dies with them. And so we don't want that to be something that's completely lost.
Yeah, the loss of language is so sad. Like I'm kind of the same as you, where our, grandparents and others were fluent. Like some of my aunts were teachers in Korean just within one generation of not speaking. Like myself and my cousins, none of us know Cree. I mean, I want to learn, but it's a difficult language to learn as well. So when you started doing fire, like you want to do that into your future. So what do you see for your future?
Well, right now I'm working on my degree in GIS, but after, I would like to maybe get a master's in fire ecology. And so really since working with our longleaf, that's been one of my passions, is revitalization of cultural resources through fire. And I know, the CFMC, the Cultural Fire Management Council in California, they do a lot of work there. I believe it's with their hazel stands, but, fire is like a really important resource to them. And I think that I would like to do the same thing with not only my tribe, but, tribes all across the United States and even the world, Canada, Australia. It's not only the United States. A lot of people do it everywhere. But yeah, I just want to work. I found something that I was passionate about with my own people. It resonates with me being, Native American. And so that's just something that I would want to do for the rest of my life, is just help tribes with the revitalization of their cultural resources.
Yeah, that's awesome. And honestly, so great to hear like that, youth are kind of trying to step up in this area and seeing the importance. I know when we've talked to, when I've spoken to lots of elders in the past, one of their concerns is like the lack of youth interest, not only in fire, but just in general in culture, and that it's kind of, been put into them that there's like nothing to be proud of and all of that. So it's really lovely to hear you just talk so proudly about your culture and the practices. Yeah, that's awesome. So what language is it that you speak in your nation?
We are the Alabama Coshada tribe, and our sister tribe is the Coshada tribe. And so there's kind of two languages there. It's Albamo and Cosati. And so my family is more Coshada, so we speak Cosati, but in the Alabama Coshada reservation, most of the elders speak Albamo. It's very, very similar. The dialect is a bit different, the way you say things is a bit different. But for the most part, they're pretty much the same.
Yeah, it reminds me of like, so Cree is my family's language, and it's also has multiple dialect groups. And I find it kind of confusing because sometimes I think I have words down and then I hear another Cree speaker and it's like totally different, their pronunciation. And then I start to get like all like self-conscious again. I'm like, oh, I don't know I'll never know how to speak this language. But what I think is really neat is like the link of language with like cultural resources, like you were talking about. And just, I was chatting with someone the other day about, how to understand language, like to understand your language, like it just has so much ecological knowledge embedded in it as well. So when your language kind of dies, you're also losing all that ecological knowledge that's attached. And like in Cree, I know that in Woodlands Cree, there's like about 80 different words for fire. And I was talking to someone else and they were telling me that even like the word for moose, there's not just one word for moose. There's all different ways to describe moose depending on like what time of year it is, whether it's a female, whether she has a calf, whether it's a bull moose. So yeah, they don't only use one word. And yeah, so shout out to Remington from Muscadet First Nation. That was who I had the conversation with. But I'm just wondering what you see with your language and the ties into fire and culture.
A good idea would be just to speak to the elders about how fire, helped them as kids and everything else. But I'm not very experienced in that right now. But that's something that I would like to be in the future.
Yeah, it sounds like a great master's project. And lifelong learning. I mean, yeah, it takes a long time to learn those things too. Well, yeah, thanks, Charity. It was so great to speak to you today and learn more about your nation and the work that you're doing. And I'm just so proud of you as a youth too in this area and how, your involvement in the Indigenous Peoples Burning Network and other groups to kind of continue to push and learn about fire.
Yes, thank you for having me. I enjoy speaking to other people and learning from other people as well. I know that's what you do as a young person, talk to people and network and, get to know people. So I'm glad I, met you at the Indigenous Peoples Burning Network conference and that we could have this conversation.
Yeah, that was super fun and highly recommend for other Indigenous people, especially youth, to try and attend some of those events. It's a really great learning opportunity.
Yes, and, I just would like to say, don't be scared of new things, or stepping out of your comfort zone. And I was very much out of my comfort zone at the Indigenous Peoples Burning Network when Mary asked me to speak on this panel. I was a little discouraged. Like, you want me? Like, I've only been doing this for a short amount of time, but it opened a lot of doors for me. A lot of people reached out and were like, here's my card. If you ever need a job one day or if you would like to, talk more or you have any questions or anything. And so I've, gained a lot of resources through networking and stepping out of my comfort zone. And I would just like to be an encouragement to everyone else, especially youth and especially women who don't think that they can do things like this, because you can. I'm here doing it now.
Okay, thanks so much to Charity for joining us on that teaser episode for season 3. It was great to chat with her. We had a little bit of issues with audio and other things. Charity's computer wouldn't record on the normal platform that we use, but we tried to do our best there. So thanks especially to Matt, who dealt with some audio issues behind the scenes there and put it into a great episode for us. And at the end, I was laughing when Charity was saying that they weren't sure why they were invited to speak at the Indigenous Peoples Burning Network thing, because Charity was amazing at that event and just was really inspirational to multiple youth and other people. And so I was so glad that I got to hear her speak there and then to hear more in detail on this podcast about the work that she's doing. So yeah, season 3 is coming right away. We're going to have 9 episodes for you all to listen to. And I'm really excited for you to meet some of the people that we're going to be featuring this year. So see you soon.
A huge thank you to Canada Wildfire for their support of this podcast. As well, we would like to thank the Fighting Gunda Jamara for allowing us to share their fire song Ween as the official song of Good Fire Podcast.